Hi, and welcome to the Health Begins with Mom show. I am Dorit Palvanov, your host. On this podcast, I will share insights and interviews on health, parenting, and explore the question of what does it take to thrive as women, wives, and mothers. Now, let's get going with today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Health Begins with Mom podcast. This is Dorit Palvanov, your host. Today, I wanted to share some of the findings I have, I'm contemplating on after my many conversations with women. And maybe if you're listening to this, we've had a conversation too. A few weeks ago, I posted a post in my Facebook group. So if you're not a member, please join. It's called Busy Moms Get Healthy, and also on my personal profile. And I invited women to come and chat with me. I'm working on putting together a program for moms who want to heal themselves, who want to rebalance their hormones, who want to learn how to thrive in their female body, and how to do that in a way that is sustainable, in a way that feels easy, in a way that feels good. And I love these conversations. I feel like I've spoken to so many, at least 12 at this point, and it's sort of like a repeat, right? A repeat, the same. When I ask, the same questions, obviously, I hear for the most part very similar responses from women. And so today I wanted to talk about one of the things that I've noticed when it comes to health and healing yourself. And I think especially for moms, for us, for women, really, that are struggling with this notion or this idea of putting myself before everybody else, right? So I talk about this, I call this putting me before we. And I do this, and I say it, and I encourage it because I believe that if I am running on empty, if I am uninspired, unmotivated, tired, exhausted, if I don't enjoy life, if I don't feel happy and vibrant and thriving, if I don't feel like I'm using the human potential that resides inside of me, right? That spark, that the spark of humanity that is within me. If I'm not being of service, if I'm not using the purpose for which I have been created, for which I came into this world, if I'm not using all of that, then it's really hard to show up and feel good as a mom. It's really difficult to show up and enjoy your marriage and your friends and just your life in general. And yet, so many women don't do it. And I don't say it with judgment, because for many years, I didn't do it myself either. And I think what I've noticed when, in my conversations with women, I feel like there are two things. There are many things, but two things that at least I have been able to identify so far. And so one of them is a mindset, which I wanted to talk about today. And then the second thing is it's almost like cultural setbacks and things that you have seen in your own homes, maybe the way your mom showed up, or your grandma, and it's just sort of like a cultural norm that we see as girls growing up, and then it's really hard to break and change or sort of forget. And I get that. I totally understand. I will talk about the cultural setbacks hopefully next week. Today I wanted to talk about the mindset and how we view our health, and so my first question when I spoke to these women was to identify their top 5 health complaints, and that question was so easy to answer. Most women, no, I'm gonna correct myself. All women came up with at least 5 health complaints, and we talk about things like mood changes, fatigue, stress, inability to choose the best foods. Women spoke about yo-yoing with weights, so losing weight and then gaining it back and then losing it again and gaining more of it back. It's like we call it yo-yo dieting. And then, some women mentioned that they don't have a regular exercise regimen, that they have structural pain, which is either with their skeletal system, so joint pain, back pain. Some of them mentioned carpal tunnel issues, postpartum issues, hormonal issues. We spoke about heavy menstruation, heavy periods, painful periods, clots in the menses, really like uncomfortable issues that women have, and we all have, some degrees, some levels of discomfort. So many of women have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and what's interesting is that we just don't talk about it. Like, I was surprised up until the point for me that I posted this invitation to connect with me and chat with me and share, your health struggles. Some friends, some women who are in my friends circle who have, reached out to be interviewed, I didn't even know that they have these issues, so this is how ingrained and how quiet we are, and even discreet. And I think intentionally to not talk about what bothers us, because we're afraid that, we might be judged. We're afraid that, what are people are going to think about us. We want to keep things sort of like, quiet and on low fire, so that we don't have to maybe face those challenges. But the thing is, and in all conversations, 100% of the times, when I talk about, their past and now present, all women said that their symptoms are getting worse with time. And hello, yes, the issues and symptoms are going to get worse. It's not just going to go away. And I see with women, we sort of like live in a story that it's like, because it's not super painful to the point that you cannot even, go about your day, we will go to the doctor, or we will, actively search for solutions when something is really, really uncomfortable and we can't, do daily activities. Then of course we will reach out for help. But for things that are sort of like, acute, and they are recurrent, but we can sort of like live with the pain or suffer through, we usually don't. And I totally include myself in it. And so like I said, today I wanted to talk about mindset. And what I see from my conversations with women is that many of you and many of us, I'm going to say us because I used to have that mindset. We sort of view health as, we take it for granted. We assume that, we deserve health. And I guess there is some truth to it, right? We were born into this world, thankfully, hopefully, in good health. And we assume that, we have to be healthy. It's something that we deserve, sort of like by default. And so we take it for granted. And then when something happens, when we experience some symptoms, or we have fatigue, or something is just not right, and we feel it in our body, right? We just don't feel good. Like I've spoken to so many of you, and you said, in my youth or before I had my baby, it's like I can totally separate my life before I became a mom, and then after I became a mom, my life completely changed, right? So many of you use that language. Because hormonally things change, and I feel like because we're not taught how to eat properly, how to the different mindset shifts that we can do, different exercises we can do in terms of regulating and mastering our emotional health, but most of what I do is really related to health and teaching you how to eat in a way that is going to be the right kind of eating for supporting your hormonal system. And so because we're not taught that kind of stuff, then we feel almost like we are doing life a huge favor. We feel like, what do you mean that I have to, heal myself? What do you mean I have to pay someone to help me to heal? Well, excuse me, my life is so hard right now. My life is so tough right now. If you only knew what I'm going through, you would not be asking me that kind of question. And I mean, this is not the language women use, but that was sort of like the feeling that I've received. So many women feel like, it's sort of like the way I see it, at least, and I've spoken about this many times on the podcast. It's an issue with a certain degree of immaturity. I feel like, as we grow older, as we become older, we also become wiser for the most part. Most of us do become wiser. And many women, I see in my work with women, and so many of you know me from my past work. I started my career from pediatric nutrition, so I worked with children in the beginning, and then I shifted slowly my practice to working more with their moms, because I've noticed that the way the kids do things, or the way they eat, the way they show up in their lives is many times sort of like a blueprint of their parents. So I've started noticing how the way dad says or talks, or even their gestures, and the mom too, it's reflected in the kids. And so I thought, like, it's so not, I'm not being of service when I tackle, in quotes, the child. It will be of much greater benefit to the whole family if I, go to the source, which is in most cases the mom. And as you know, this podcast is called Health Begins with Mom. That is exactly the reason. I believe that a lot of those internal things that happen in the home, they begin with us moms, because we are the hearts of our homes, and we are the backbones of our homes. And that's why I believe that we have to take responsibility for what we're creating, right? Most of us have chosen to be moms because we wanted it, we craved it, we felt like this is something that we want to call into our life. And then once it happens, it's going to be challenging, because anything that is worthwhile is going to be challenging, and so you do have to put effort into it. That's just the way it is. That's just the way life is. And I see so many women feeling like they're just not willing to show up and be active, and also I see in many cases very low self-esteem. I feel like women just don't believe in themselves. They don't believe, they feel like there's this issue of self-worth, like I don't deserve it, like I'm not worth taking care of myself, I'm not worth investing in myself. And this is such a huge, I don't want to curse here, but this is such, Baloney. This is not true. This is not true. I've shared that many times, the story of how I came to hire my coach and how I struggled with my own sense of self-worth and just showing up as a human being. I felt like I'm not using my human potential, and all of this 100% reflected in my kids, and it was reflected in their attention at school. They were whinier, way whinier, crying all the time. Sibling rivalry was on the rise. Pickiness with food was so difficult. Like every single thing that was difficult and challenging felt like 10 times worse, really, because my energy, my vibration just wasn't there. It wasn't present. And so I understood that I have to do something. I have to do something in order to help myself heal. And so I hired a coach. I paid a lot of money, something that a lot of women would feel like there is no way I can do that. And at the time, that's how I felt too. But now, a year later, I feel like this program was so transformational for me. And that's exactly the promise that I have for you, if you choose to invest in yourself. Anyways, so the takeaway from today, I want to tell you that you are not broken. You are so worthy of taking care of yourself. But at the same time, you are also responsible for taking the charge and showing up in your life as a creator, as opposed to just being like a victim and waiting for the goodness to fall on you. Because, honey, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because this is not the way life works. Life doesn't work this way, right? If there is something that you want, there is something you want to create in your life, first you need to know what you want, and then you have to actively be shifting your energy towards that goal, right? So this is how manifestation works. This is how change works. And nothing happens quickly. It happens slowly over time, right? So please do not sit around and wait for someone to save you. It is not happening, right? I spoke about this point of immaturity. In a way, it's because when we, all of us, now we are moms ourselves, but all of us were girls, and all of us were little, daughters at one point in our life. And, the way I work with women and what I coach them to do is that when you become a mom, you are giving birth to the new you, to the mature you, to the mom in you, right? So the responsible in you. So most of us are responsible when it comes to logistics, right? Running the home, getting the meals ready, making sure the laundry is done, just making sure the household is functioning properly, right? But when it comes to taking care of, your body, your health, your happiness levels, making sure that you are tending to the pleasures of life. You're still having fun in this, in the midst of this, these crazy logistics. This is important too, but unfortunately we're not taught that because for the most part, we didn't see this being modeled by our moms. In most homes, we have seen our moms, being amazing at cooking, at serving, at taking care of everybody else, and pushing herself to the end of that list. And that's why when we grow up and we become moms, that's what we do, right? So it's not because this is how it's supposed to be. That's just because that's what we've seen and that's what we're modeling. But 100% of the women I've spoken with have that soul ache that is saying, oh, that it just doesn't sit well with them, and they feel so guilty for wanting things to be different, for wanting things to be done differently in their own life. They want to show up differently. They want other things, but they're just afraid to declare it, to say it, to even think it. So today's action task is going to be, I'm going to give you the permission to do so. I want you to know that you deserve it and you're worth it. But I want you to know that this is also your responsibility to make it happen, right? So whether it is actively looking for the right health advice, so maybe you can start by reading books related to the symptoms that you're having, or maybe looking up some YouTube videos, or even, hiring a health coach. I would love to work with you. I would love to support you. This work is what I'm passionate about the most in my life. My life mission is about teaching myself, learning this myself, and also passing this information on to other women so that we can learn how we can thrive, how we can be happy, how we can be vibrant, how we can show up amazing in our world, so that we can do the work we were destined to do, so that we can use the human potential that resides in each and every one of us, right? And hopefully I'll be able to pass this information on to my girls and also to your girls. So if you'd like to chat with me, I am still interviewing. I still have a few more openings in my calendar for talking to women. So if you would like to get on the phone with me, this is not going to be a sales call. This is going to be just an interview where I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, a bunch of health questions, just to understand what are your symptoms, what are you struggling with, and that's it. And at this point, I'm gathering this information so that I can craft the marketing message for you. And hopefully, I don't know when exactly the program is going to be launching. I'm aiming at May, but who knows when actually it's going to happen. But I will definitely keep you posted. So like I said, I still have a few more openings in my calendar until the end of April. So if you would like to jump on a call with me, please send me an email. You can reach me at dorit@healthbeginswithmom.com, or you can also find me on Facebook. I go under Dorit Palvinov. Just send me a friend's request. I will approve you, and we'll chat. All right, so until next time, I'm sending you much love and healing. I'll catch you next time. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Health Begins with Mom show. I love hearing from you, so please post your comments and questions over at healthbeginswithmom.com/podcast. If you love the show, please share it on social media and in your real life with other moms who might enjoy this content. And if you have a burning question or topic you'd like me to hit on the show, just drop me a line at dorit@healthbeginswithmom.com. And if you love this show and really want to support it, please go to iTunes, write a review, and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Much love and many blessings.